Hey, it's Christy and Amanda.
Two girls from Saskatchewan, Canada, living the Reiki life while working the 9 to 5.
Hey, welcome back. You are here with myself, Amanda, and my co-host here, Christy. And this is episode 72. We have a great guest today that we will get into. But first, Christy and I are going to share just a couple little updates for you about us. And Christy, how are things going?
Yeah, hi everyone. I was outside playing fetch with my dog before we tuned in here, and it finally feels like spring. I saw a robin, the first robin. I haven't seen one since since fall. So I always say that's like a sign of spring. So finally, that feels so good. I just can't wait to put my bare feet in the grass. Oh man, I miss that so much. But yeah, what I wanted to talk about was my Reiki sessions lately. And I find that right now I'm attracting a lot of like Reiki practitioners. So it's like people that it's not their first rodeo. I actually had a spirit guide say that to me about the one Reiki session, because I was like kind of going in and explaining some things, and her spirit guide was like, you know what, like this is not her first rodeo. She knows what she's doing. And I was like, oh, okay. So then it's like I changed like my dial to, like the teacher hat to like more being a guide. And it was really neat to see these sessions unfold. And it's like I stepped out of the role of a healer and into the role of a guide. And just that inner insight was so neat. So it's like I'm planting seeds for my clients to receive their own inner guidance. So I'm clearing out their vessel and I'm planting these seeds that they will get an aha moment, some insight. I'm just like turning the compass. I'm pointing them in that right direction. So it's like, I'm not here to give you all the answers. You already have all the answers within you. I'm just waking that within yourself. And I just find that such a beautiful switch right now. And it's something that I'm really enjoying, because I have put a pause on my Akashic readings. I'm not sure when I would open them again or if I will. I went through quite, I don't even know how to explain it. Like a death and rebirth, I guess you would say, when I got really sick. And I just had to ask myself, like, is this filling my cup up? And at that time, like, I love the information that came through. I love the transformation for my clients, but it took a lot of energy out of myself, where I was losing sleep. And I just didn't feel like myself because I wasn't grounding in. I was going elsewhere to retrieve the information in the Akashics. And we actually talked to Michael about this. And he just had some really amazing insight of how to receive information. And I've taken his guidance and I've used that in my Reiki sessions. So I just really love what he said. We'll share all that in the interview later. But yeah, so for right now, my Akashic readings are paused until I can maybe find a different way to channel and really focus and hone in on what he shared with me. Because yeah, as of right now, I can't do something that depletes my life force and affects my day-to-day life. So, it was a letting go. I felt like I let down so many clients that were waiting for their readings and offering refunds, and I felt like I failed. And it was just a really good learning experience to, of course, honor yourself first, right? That's always so important. Like, I can't give a reading if I'm depleted. So yeah, so that's where I'm at right now. So yeah.
Yeah, that was the best takeaway. Well, one of many great takeaways hearing from Michael actually was about that, about calling the information down into you instead of overextending yourself and trying to reach up to get it.
Yeah.
I also have been like incorporating that practice and using that as well. It was such a great takeaway. And about you said about getting putting your feet on the ground. So before we started this, I grabbed my grounding pyramid that has like the copper and stuff in it. And holy, I had no idea how ungrounded I was. And it's like, I miss that too. Like I've been outside, but it's, I haven't been able to like put my feet like fully on the ground and almost like take a beat, especially with all the transition that I'm going through right now too. So I'm here with you on that, that I'm really ready for spring to fully be here. And it finally feels like it is. But I love the work that you're doing now. And it's great because I think a lot of us too, right? We reach out to other Reiki practitioners and we know they know.
Yeah.
So it's great to hold the space and kind of highlight the stuff that, we're too close to see. So someone else has to help us with that.
Yeah.
So that's awesome.
That's exactly right. And even the back of the heart came up. Like it's hard to Reiki the back of your own heart. So it's like that's where you can book in with a Reiki practitioner. We can work on the back. And yeah, I thought that was really neat as well. So there's always a time and place for self Reiki and for booking a session. And it's just tuning into your own body. What do you need at this time? So that's, guidance.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. Enough about me. What's going on?
So I had 2 clients kind of sneak into my schedule because I didn't book it off fully. And I was kind of nervous, right? Because I was like, I'd been out of the game for about a month and a half and just, taking time for me and the new baby and things like that. So I was kind of nervous to see how things were going to go, but they actually went really, really well. And it was almost like that rest period made me come back stronger in a way. It was just, when you haven't had a workout for a couple days or a week and you're like, oh my God, but then you come back and you're like, whoa, this was really good. I almost feel stronger than I did before. It kind of felt like that. So that was really good. And then I was telling Christy right before, like, it was like the week that I was going to have Callie. So I had a couple appointments booked. I had one actually with Michael. I booked one in with him, our podcast guest for today, because I really loved him and I wanted to experience a session with him. And then I had a myofascia massage booked, the guy that Christy and I see as well. And it was funny. So I had my first session with Michael and he was really sick. So we tried to connect and he said, you know what, I'm sorry. Like, I just can't do this right now. And you could, like, I could hear him. He was really sick. So I said, yeah, no problem. And then the next day when I was supposed to go for my myofascia massage, he also texted me that morning and was like, hey, I'm sorry. I have the flu. I can't help you. I can't work with you today. And I was like, oh my gosh, like what is going on? I thought it was so interesting. And then when I sat with it, I got the message that I was too close to the end of my pregnancy, that nobody else should be not mucking around, but like working in my energetic field right now. Mm-hmm. So I completely honored that and didn't have either one. And I just kind of worked on my own energy and just sat with myself. So I thought it was a really beautiful message that maybe sometimes we need to just kind of cocoon ourselves and let things be for the time being. So I thought that was really neat if anyone else has experienced anything like that.
Yeah, I found that super fascinating too, how it was like nobody should be in your energetic field at this time of transition and inviting new life into your world. And I also feel like that could even, transition to any time where you're making a big move, like say from a job or from a location, a move. It's like, that's time to be with yourself and with your own energy and feel your own guidance. So I just love that you got that message, because when one thing happens, it's like, oh, okay. But when 2 things happen, that's a sign that something deeper is going on. So yeah, it's really neat.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so let's get into the astrology for May. So we have a few things going on. We actually have a blue moon going on in May at the end. But first we have May 1st, we have the full moon in Scorpio. So a really good time to release attachments, cords, or any kind of even control that we may be hanging on to and doing a lot of shadow work. So it's the death card in tarot. So a really big one for transformation. And it's a water sign as well, Scorpio is. So it might be time to kind of release some of those emotional things that can help us go into that rebirth, because that's what the death card is, right? It's all about experiencing that rebirth, kind of like what Christy was actually talking about with her Akashics and going through that. You always come out greener, usually on the other side. I'm getting the image of somebody like a farmer who burns the crop. So like the good stuff can really come back even more alive. So sometimes I know it seems scary to kind of light stuff up in flames or do an abrupt change, especially when we feel like we put in so much hard work into something we've tried to create, and then to be like, poof, just gonna let it all explode. But sometimes that's actually for a bigger and better purpose, and we just can't see it yet. Weird chat, a little message there that I swear things are just coming back even fiery now that I'm rested. It's interesting. And then on May 16th, we have the new moon in Taurus. So yay, Christy season, Taurus. And Taurus is a really nice grounded energy. And Taurus is the Hierophant sign in the major arcana for tarot. So since this is a new moon, it would be a really good time to start like kind of planning out like finances, putting stuff into your home, especially with like this beautiful spring energy. You might even feel the need to redecorate or rearrange the house, so maybe it even feels a little bit more feng shui. But yeah, really going into like what really grounds you and makes you feel good as a self. And then we got a bonus full moon on May 31st in Sagittarius. So they call this a blue moon, right? Because it's so rare. So once in a blue moon. And again, Sagittarius is a fire sign. So we're getting a lot of the elements this month in May. It's going to be kind of a fun energy. And Sagittarius is the Temperance card. So really alignment with your higher self. Really good one for healing as well, and kind of recycling out energy. So big realizations and truths could be coming through as well, and sudden shifts or leap forwards with the Sagittarius energies. So really good. And this is going to be a little bit more amplified too, because it is the second full moon. So really harness that about releasing and letting that fire, again, with that fire analogy, with that crop, letting things burn up that need to, and just, it might be a really quick energy as well. So enjoy the ride and just kind of go with the flow of the May. Wow, there's a lot going on there.
Yeah, there is. That is interesting about the blue moon. Whenever I hear blue moon, I always think of Greece. I think there's a song about blue moon.
Totally. And then they moon.
Yeah, that's right.
The camera.
I used to love that movie so much. But yeah, about the fire and burning things down. I read a really interesting analogy that I really love, and when you're making pottery and you put it in the kiln to be fired, you do that so it will become stronger. And it's like you need that fire to bring it to, like, because it's all mushy, and then you fire it and then it turns to solid, like a solid cup. And I just really love that. That really stuck with me. So yeah, I love May. I love everything about this month. Of course, it's my birth month and lots going on. So yeah. All right. So our Reiki circle for May, we do have a date. So mark your calendars. We're going to try out a Saturday this time at 10 a.m. CST Saskatchewan time. And yeah, Google what time is it in Saskatchewan to get your times right, because when you Google CST, sometimes it isn't always right. I don't know what happens here, but I had a couple things with time zones and everything, so we can't stress that enough. But yeah, we really hope you can come by and join us. So the first half hour, we like to sit in the circle and bring anything that comes forward, like questions, things that came up in a session, and people ask us questions, and we just have like a really good group vibe. And then the last half is a guided meditation Reiki journey, and we'll guide you through whatever comes up. And then, I don't know, it's just something really cool about getting a group together. And yeah, they really filled my cup up. So we want to continue offering those. And the link will be in our bio to sign up. And then also, Amanda and I are going to be changing the schedule of the podcast just for now. We release 2 episodes a month, but we're going to dial back to one episode a month. Just for what's going on in our lives right now, so we can really, put out good content and, fill our own cups up so we can have a good balance here. So,
Yeah. And it might not be forever, but it's just for right now. That's what needs to happen because we really want to keep this going. And like Christy said, we want to make sure we have good quality content and we're not just putting something out to put something out.
Yeah.
Because we need to, it is the time. So thank you for understanding that. And we still love it when people connect with us and or have any other questions they want to ask us. Just, connect with us on Instagram too.
Of course.
All right, let's get into our guest today.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's get into our podcast guest today. So today we have an interview with Michael Keleman. He is the founder of Pure Light Well, is his website, and Michael has been is a spiritual teacher and mentor, and he has been working with people for over decades, 2 decades. He has been working with people, and what's really cool about him is that it's kind of like a Joe Dispenza, right? He actually talks about him. But so he really bridges science with healing. And he does work in the Akashics. We do a really awesome talk about attachments, which I was super interested in. And he uses applied kinesiology as well. And he's just a fantastic man. I enjoy talking to him so much. He has so much wisdom and insight and taught Christy and I quite a bit of techniques and things that we started using in our own practice. And he really helps people to get in to help release old patterns and kind of reshift the subconscious. So really, really interesting conversation today. I know you're going to have a lot of takeaways from this, and we can't wait for you to listen. And we'll have all of his connections in our show notes. So if you want to book a session with him and reach out to him, I know I'll be trying to reschedule too when things kind of calm down more for me. So yeah, enjoy.
Yeah, I hope you enjoy. All right, so welcome, Michael, to the podcast. We're super excited to sit down with you and hear all about your spiritual journey and your offerings. And we feel like you have so much to share. So where we always like to start is how did the journey start? Was there something that happened that sparked your curiosity? How did this all go down?
Well, first, thank you for having me. It's been a long time since I've been on a podcast, so I was a little surprised, but I'm delighted. My journey kicked off in my early 20s. I had gone through a pretty violent upbringing, and so through all of that trauma, I had repressed my system, and it was shut down. And so I ended up connecting with somebody where I worked, and we would always have these super deep conversations. And she said, we have a meditation group. If you'd like to come, I'd love you to come. I was sure. Okay. I would love that. So I went there for a couple of weeks, and it was primarily women. And, but I really got a deep sense of the divine feminine in that experience. And I was really moved by that. A lot of Native American traditions, interwoven. And so after attending there for a few weeks, this person came back who I guess had been missing for a while. And everybody was excitedly, welcoming her. And she just looked straight at me and threw me. And she said, "We're meant to work together." I'm like, okay, I didn't know what that meant at all at that time. So I said, sure. Okay. So I ended up scheduling an appointment with her, and she ended up taking me through a rebirthing process. We were doing deep circular breathing, and I don't know what other type of energy modality she used, but I had this massive emotional release. And so as I was making my way out of her healing space, the energy release was so big that my system was recalibrating. And so my depth perception was off. And I was like, wow, this is kind of trippy. And so I hopped in my car and I'm heading home. And all of a sudden the song Amazing Grace comes on. And all of a sudden it's like this intense interconnectedness of everything was being experienced. And the song was, I once was blind, but now I see. So like the universe is showing me and giving me direct experience of that interconnectedness. And so for the first 3 days after that experience, I was having conscious out of body travel. I would just come up and out of my body and go wherever I wanted to go. It was highly telepathic for 3 days. And then everything kind of shut down. And so that was the catalyst that really launched me into this path. So I ended up telling my uncle, who's an electrical engineer, about my experiences. And he used to listen to this nighttime program. I can't remember the name of it off the top of my head, but he was telling me about this guy who was a remote viewer. He started a remote viewing program for the government. His name was Ingo Swann. And so I ended up looking this guy up, and he had volumes and volumes of information on consciousness on his website. And I came across this one book. It's called Psychic Sexuality. And it's basically describing like that generative or creative force within us all. And they were talking about this ancient Asian copper wall technology that they were using at, I think it was Stanford Research Institute. Or no, it was the Menninger Foundation, I think. And so basically these Dr. Alice and Elise and Elmer Green were doing biofield experiments. And so they were using this description of this technology out of the Mahatma letters by A.P. Sinnett. And so it describes like this copper sheet that's highly polished in front of the spiritual aspirant, a magnet hanging above the crown, and then them sitting in a glass vessel to insulate them from the grounding effects of the earth. And so the master would take the aspirant and help to get this circular energy flow going. And it would act as like this catalyst to start energizing and vitalizing all of the dormant abilities within our energy system. Cool. And so I said, I got to build that. And so I ended up building a smaller model of it and just started experiencing some amazing effects from that. I would be in deep meditation and go into this hypnagogic state between waking and sleeping, and I would come back to. The atmosphere would look the same, and then I would go to speak, and balls of light would come out of my mouth. The environment would shift and change colors as I was meditating in there, just massive flows of violet energy flowing out from my point of awareness. And so I did that for about a month, meditating in there. I would just go to work, come home, and meditate, read spiritual text, and that was it. And at the time I was acting, and my friends were like, where have you gone? And I really, they really couldn't understand this kind of phenomenon. I didn't want them to put me in a white jacket and take me away, But what was interesting is once I got downtown, I went to go see them. They were watching live music somewhere. And one of my friends had a massive migraine. And so I said, well, come here. I'd gone to school for massage therapy. I'll just, massage the back of your neck. So I had her put her head on my shoulder. And as soon as I touched my hand to the back of her neck, she like ripped away from me. She's like, oh my God, what did you just do to me? I'm like, I don't know, because I didn't feel anything. But my system was charged up. It's such a high potential that as soon as I touched her, that intelligent energy just went right where it needed to go. And she said it like filled up the entire inside of her head with light.
Wow.
And so, and then I was sharing that with my uncle. And then he started talking about an ethnobotanist and his explorations in South America with Terence McKenna, which was his brother. Yeah. Excuse me. And, about them partaking of this ancient elixir to have a near-death experience to merge with God again. All I heard was merge with God again, which I think was that deep inner quest to feel that pure, like universal love. That's the foundation for everything. And so we ended up doing this medicine, and because of the time in the chamber and then this medicine, it just blew me like wide open. I mean, I'm like having super conscious like experience, went all the way into The only thing I can liken it to is like from a quantum physics perspective is the state of quantization where everything's in like this digital wave kind of like clouds, right? So you think of an analog wave and it's just the sine wave, but a digital wave is made up of many different bits. And so I was taken into this place beyond any dimension into this like pre-creation space where you could see the movement of these digital waves where they could become anything. And so then, after that journey, because we didn't have a shaman, we were, open and vulnerable. And so I had something download into my crown. And I was the next day I went to South Beach and I didn't need to eat. I had so much energy flowing through my system. I was having like these multi-dimensional, like Aztec forms shifting into this dimension and popping out. And it was just super, super intense. And so my mom had met a Reiki practitioner before I left for Miami. And as soon as I got back, I'm like, I got to talk to this guy. I need some help because I had no resources in my immediate vicinity that could assist with that, with helping me to get grounded again. And so I contacted him and he was out of town until the next day. So he's trying to coach me over the phone. And I ended up connecting with him, but he couldn't shut me down. It's like whatever was in my system was beyond where he was at and his ability at that time. And so prior to going back, because I went back and forth with him a few days at a time, and he was just trying to find some way of helping me. He called it an intuitive, and she was working along with him. No dice. And I'm like, oh my God, like I opened this Pandora's box, And so I ended up doing some deep pranayama because I would do a lot of deep pranayama just to vitalize my system prior to this experience. And then that thought came. So I was driving down the freeway, heading back to this guy, and I started doing deep circular breathing. And all of a sudden, whatever it was that was attached to my crown shot out of my third eye. So imagine like being in a submarine and in the torpedo turret, it shooting out and then leaving like this wake from its velocity going through the water. So basically that's what I saw as whatever this being was shot out of my third eye. Literally, I could see the matrix of light that we're in vibrate back and forth. And
Wow.
so I was like, wow. I finally got there and they had this elder woman who just did some work on my crown and got me sealed up for the moment and got my system shut down. So it was a really traumatic awakening, but
So you were doing your own thing by meditating and going into the different realms, like you were connecting yourself higher and then your crown just took on too much energy.
well,
Is that right?
Well, I think it's from doing the medicine, right? Mm-hmm. So the medicine contains DMT, dimethyltryptamine.
Right.
And so basically, I don't know if you are familiar with Rick Strassman and his work, but basically they describe the DMT, it's naturally occurring in our body. And at the moment of death, DMT spikes, and at conception, DMT spikes. So they call it the spirit molecule. So it allows the soul to enter into the body and then to be released.
Okay.
And so that medicine is just like hyper lit up the energy system in the brain. So, that's how we perceive our realities through our nervous system. Mm-hmm. And there's a consciousness researcher by the name of Itzhak Bentov, mystic, biomedical engineer. And he describes this process of, like, think of your nervous system as like this aperture on a camera. And basically that's what we're doing as we're evolving. That aperture is opening more and more and more and letting in more and more light and information. So what this did is just kind of like blow that wide open. So I was able to see all of those dimensions that are around us all the time. We're just filtering it out, filtering those dimensions out because we couldn't function that wide open. So, that was that experience. It just blew everything out. And then, finally, after I got shut down, I ended up going up to Toronto to work with a woman who does multidimensional cellular healing. And that's using pendulum work. And she had studied with a bunch of different people. And she really helped to, I want to say clear and release some of the traumas from the experience and kind of bring my system back into balance more so. And she ended up handing me some books called the I Am Teachings. And there are some books written in the 1930s by, I'm trying to remember his name. Ballard is his last name. But basically, it's a series about becoming your Christ itself and how that process happens. And so when I got back to Michigan, I looked up, I'm like, I Am Teachings, like anybody in the immediate area, just so I could connect with somebody who's kind of on the same page. And I ended up connecting with somebody in Kalamazoo, which is about an hour and something away from me. And so I drive out to go meet with this person. And as soon as I get there, he goes, come on, I'm taking you to my friend's house. I'm like, but I just got here. And so he ended up taking me to his friend's house, who's an Egyptologist. And they had a scale model of Giza on their property. And so he took me in there and he said, spend the night in here. I'm like, okay. And I spent the night in there and literally I could see like this luminous energy at the peak of this pyramid. I'm like, what is that? And in the morning when he came to get me to bring me out, I'm like, I didn't want to get out of there. I just felt so peaceful. And so on the way back, I said, hey, what was that luminous energy at the top of the pyramid? And he just looked at me and he said, oh, those are tachyons. I'm like, what? So I get home and I look that up, and the very first thing I come across is a company called Advanced Tachyon Technologies. And they make energy healing tools. And I ended up studying with them. That helped me to start integrating, because everything that I experienced was kind of like based on quantum mechanics, quantum physics. That helped me to make the connection as far as consciousness and the structure of reality, and consciousness's role in that process. So that is where I started studying all of these different modalities and kind of integrating different things. And like you're saying, like there's an evolution that's taking place. Even though you start on this one path, other things start to open up. So, and you can't keep them confined sometimes, because you're being shown a different picture and the different interconnectedness of everything.
Yeah. And looking back at that journey now, can you see why it unfolded the way it did? Like, do you have any clarity on that? Because that is like the most intense story I've ever heard of an awakening.
Especially with the energy flowing into that crown. I was thinking, like, if you were even sensitive to electronics.
Everything. I mean, but it's kind of like that overrode everything else, right? Because it was like something from a dimension beyond ours prior to our dimension that we're used to functioning in. So that kind of like it took over. So, and then that just took me into all different areas. And I don't know if you saw on the website or on, some of the videos, I talk about entity attachment. And so
I wanted to talk to you about that today. And I've experienced that a lot as a Reiki practitioner on other people too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I had an entity force itself into me around the age of 8. Only at that time, I didn't know what it was. I was getting ready to go into the shower, and all of a sudden, I just felt an immense pressure in my body. Imagine like, like a new balloon, when you go to blow it up, you put air in it initially, and it's like super tight, and then it ends up relaxing, right? Mm-hmm. That's the sensation that I had. Like whatever this entity was, it forced itself into my field. Like it felt super tight, and then it eventually released. But I had this sense of like terror, like fear, like because I'm a little kid, I don't know what's going on. And so I think that obviously was a part of the journey, because, when I had that opening after the first 3 days of the initial awakening, I was like, okay, if these are our potentials, what's shutting them down and how do we open them back up again? And, I know there's all sorts of Eastern philosophies and things that describe these processes, but I didn't know that at the time when that happened. So that's, was a part of the catalyst. And I really, along this journey, even though after the initial awakening with the medicine, it took me like 10 years to integrate. Studying with advanced tachyon technologies really helped me because their modeling is top down. How do things come into manifest reality, right? Everything in manifestation is a slowing down. If you look at the chakra system, right, it's high frequency at the crown and then moves slower and slower and slower down into the root, right? So, but they're vortexual energies. So they're pushing and pulling simultaneously. And it's that inward outward movement that gives us the perception of physical sensation, physical reality. But everything's dissolving and reemerging, dissolving and reemerging, speeding up and slowing down always. And so that's what kind of gives us a sensation of time as well, an unfolding moment to moment to moment to moment.
So question for you, just to follow up with that. So
Sure.
my spouse did Cambo. And do you find when people do spiritually enhancing things like that, because that's what his goal was, to help release and purge some childhood traumas, but after, when I did Reiki on him, like I had to really clean up his energetic field. And do you find that people are more susceptible to things like attachments or energies like that when they're in kind of a vulnerable state like that? Like, for your experience, it almost sounds like you were vibing too high for anything to even attach to you at that point. But his felt different. It didn't feel as like buzzy out here, which something wouldn't be able to kind of cling to.
Yeah. Yeah, I find that, it just depends. Like, recreational drugs, that leaves you open and susceptible to attachment, But
for sure,
my girlfriend, she does mediumship work. And initially, when we came together, she had things trying to get into her system. All of a sudden, you get these things projecting into your mental and emotional bodies, all of these negative thoughts, and I'm like, wow, let's clear that up. And now I've taught her how to identify and clear things for herself. But, it just depends. It depends on who you're working with to do the medicine work. And what is your knowledge base that you are going into this experience with? That's a critical key, for me. And, now I just don't let anybody mess with my energy. I mean, I'll douse and see, like, should I work with this person or not? Or should I, explore this or explore that or not? So it just, if you have tools, you can utilize them to navigate through all of that. But that's at least been my experience, is that, sometimes you are susceptible and open depending on the shaman. Like I had another friend in Michigan, and I'd kind of heard of the shaman running around in Detroit doing ceremonies before. I'm like, she had a bad experience with him. But we had actually connected with some shamans out of the heartbed of that tradition in Pucallpa in South America. They would come and make their rounds through the U.S. And so I ended up meeting him in Florida when I moved there. And he was authentic as they get. And, I felt really safe and guarded around him. And his ceremonies were intense, but very beautiful. And so she had attended there. And so she already had that awareness and that energy of that shaman. And so when she was sitting in ceremony with this shaman, she could see that there was something not quite right with this guy. And one of my cousin's friends was going to a ceremony, and I'm like, this sounds like this guy. And so she ended up going into the ceremony, and I warned her beforehand. I said, be careful, because you can open yourself up and you can get stuff attached to you during ceremony. And so she ended up going into ceremony, and then she called me like days later. She goes, I think I have something attached to me. I'm like really aggressive with my client. She was a massage therapist. I'm like, that's not good. And so I ended up doing a clearing for her. Sure enough, she had something attached to her. Somebody who had attended had something attached, and it just kind of opened up and came out and like hit everybody and the shaman. The shaman really couldn't hold the space properly and just went awry. So yes, that is the thing.
Wow.
The short answer, yes.
And like, so when I have a client and I
Mhm.
can see that there's a something attached to their aura, something like
Mhm.
that, I always work with Christy and I both when we're doing Reiki, we would love to work with Archangel Michael.
Mhm.
And just calling in that really like high vibration. I also call in all of my angels and guides of the highest
Mhm.
vibration as well before I start any session. But
Mhm.
specifically, I'm calling him in when I see something like that. And then I am like removing it and all the things. Can you like kind of explain
Mhm.
how you would remove something like that from somebody's field?
Yeah. So, I mean, the way that I learned was using a pendulum. Then that way you
Oh,
can
neat.
identify how many entities are there because, they're energetic in nature. You can have, I at one time had 800 entities attached to me.
What?
Oh,
Yeah, because they're energetic, they're non physical, they don't take up space, right? So, once your system gets compromised, if you don't shut down those portals or those doorways, things can just keep coming and accumulating. And so I was guided to use a pendulum to identify what's there and work with my superconscious mind to clear and remove whatever is there. And also check for dark doorways or portals in the system because you can clear something away. And if that, as long as that portal's open, entities can still come in. So that's a key is to identify if there are any dark portals or doorways and then clear. Find out how many, because you may just clear one entity. How many are there? So
And when you're saying like portals, is that like in the aura or is that in the space that they're in?
it can be either,
Either.
you know.
Okay.
So when I'm dowsing, I'm asking about the field in the perceived physical body, if there are any dark portals or doorways. And then I'll check the living space because there may be portals in the living space depending
Right.
on where that home is at, what's transpired in that home. So those are the things that I look for when looking for any entities or attachments, and then looking in the space, the surrounding, and seeing what's there, and just making sure everything's clear.
Clear.
So,
Okay. And then are you doing this work in the Kashyyyks?
well, I do Akashic Soul Record clearing as
Yeah.
well. So I use a system called spiritual response therapy. I don't know if you're familiar with it. So it's not quite like QHHT, where you're taking somebody and regressing them and taking them into a past or other life. This system has 32 charts, and you just connect with your higher self, connect with the person, and then it just takes you wherever you need to clear whatever bodies. Because in this system, it's a stepping down out of that infinite beingness into this physical form. So in this system, there's many subconscious and conscious minds down into the perceived physical body. And so in this system, we check that. And then there is a specific area of the system that looks at past or other lifetimes to identify and clear up traumas that are impacting this lifetime.
Right.
So that's been really, really helpful as well, because as far as their system's concerned, like when you take on the body, the soul downloads that accumulated data and information into the cell structure. And then, certain environmental cues can trigger and awaken those dormant patterns and, send you into a pretty disharmonious space sometimes.
Yeah. And you can find yourself repeating same patterns from past lives and
Absolutely.
then like being scared of something you have no reason to be scared of. And yeah, it's so wild what the Akashics can uncover. It's super fascinating. But
Yeah.
sorry, I just wanted to go back to the entities. I just
Sure.
wanted to ask, like, how do you close the doors and get rid of them? Do you just, or if you don't
You're
mind
working with your,
sharing?
yeah. So, I mean, basically it's, intention's everything in the universe, right? And so the way I work, I'm using a pendulum, And, you know, my intention is to work with my higher self or superconscious. And so it knows how to do whatever needs to be done. So, and it knows everything. So I just ask, you know, how many, are there any dark portals or doorways? Yes. Okay. How many? 1 to 10, 10 to 20, you know, and kind of go up in that respect. And then just ask to have them cleared, closed, and sealed. And that intelligence clears, glows, and seals those doorways. And then you use that higher power to identify whatever is attached, or, you know, is it attached to the aura, or is it actually in possession of the person? Which, you know, I just did a clearing for somebody recently, like they were possessed by this spirit. And the shift in the change was like so dramatic and so immediate after the clearing. Like my girlfriend's friend who I did the clearing for was just like shocked. She's like, "Oh my God," it was like night and day difference. Because, you know, it's interfaced with your nervous system. And, you know, to me, it's like, you know, people who, you know, have suicidal ideation or commit suicide, many times, like they've got something attached to them. You've got something attaching to you and driving these destructive behaviors. Yeah. So it's just, as a society, we're ignorant of that and don't understand that. Oh, this person's hearing, you know, multiple voices. Oh, okay. Well, maybe they have something attached to them, and their mental and emotional bodies are being, you know, projected into by these entities. Yeah. So I think that, you know, that element in and of itself could really help tremendously. You know, the everyday world, if you will, you know, if people just knew about this unseen dimension and how we're impacted by it. Yeah. So, yeah.
You know, I've had clients where I've removed things. So like one client, for example, she always has like you know, kind of discomfort in her hands, and her hands get sore. But this time it was like so bad. Yeah. And I didn't actually know that before I was doing the session, but I said, like, when I tuned into what was going on in her field, like my hands naturally wanted to curl like this. Mm-hmm. And I like into almost like I guess paraplegic kind of hands. And I was like, what is going on? Right. Like right away, I'm like, okay, well, this isn't my energy and this isn't my client. So I'm like, what is this? And then I found out that it was like a spirit attached that almost like had like disabilities like that and didn't have function of their hands. Yeah. And then when I removed it and moved it on, like out of the field and all that, she was like, she told me after, she's like, oh my gosh, I cannot already believe the difference in my body. Like my physical body feels lighter. I'm not taking on those sensations of the spirit attaching on. It was just like, it's wild. Like I don't know if I would be so open to believing this if I haven't had so many experiences like that. So I think some people have a hard time wanting to think that can happen. Maybe it's like a fear thing that they don't want to accept something like that could be a thing.
I'm sure. It's, you know, pretty intimidating to have something that you can't see that could negatively impact you. You kind of feel vulnerable in that sense. I've had people who are like, oh, I don't even want to talk about it. But it's interesting. Are you familiar with Bruce Lipton at all? Biology,
yes.
I believe? Okay.
Yeah.
So in his modeling, you know, he joined up with Rob Williams, a Psych K, and so they kind of came together. But you could really understand, like, you know, in his model, the cell, on the surfaces of the cell, there are receptors. And so they are not only taking chemistry, but they are also affected by electromagnetic fields. And so those fields interact with that receptor. And then on the inside of the cell, there's an effector. And it sends that energy and information into the nucleus of the cell and drives the cell behavior. So with that model in and of itself, it explains why the physical body goes through what it goes through at times if there's a spirit possession. I don't know if you saw the one Instagram video I was talking about. My friend, she had gone on an anniversary vacation with her husband, and she got something attached to her, and her leg was hurting for like weeks. And I ended up clearing her, and the pain went away immediately. And the negative energy, because she had like this negative attitude, left her. You know, so it's like I think of Lord of the Rings, like the wizard, like casting out the spirit from the person, and just how much the physiology changes, from clearing out that entity from your energy system and from your cell structure.
Wow.
Hey, I love that you said that. Sorry, Christy. I literally saw that on one of the clearings that I did was literally Gandalf with his staff and like
Staff.
blasting it down. And I saw all these things just like blast away. And
Yeah.
my friend was like, my daughter finally slept and didn't have anything in her room. Like I think I
Mhm.
literally saw that exact image.
Yeah.
Too funny.
That's
Yeah.
Yes.
wild.
Yeah. I mean,
Sorry.
I had a client whose daughter couldn't sleep and she would go into these night terrors, and I'm like, okay, let me come over. I think I know what it is. And so I went over there. I ended up identifying it. And, because I'm in that space, like whatever it was, like came up my arm that I was dowsing with. I'm like, oh, yeah, okay, there's something here. And so we identified what was there, cleared it, and she had no more problems. So, again, I go back to the fact that many times all of these ailments and things that are happening with us are being influenced from the unseen that we're moving through. So,
Yeah, and I love that way you explained the cell. That makes so much sense to me. I've never had
Right.
anyone explain
yeah.
that before. Yeah.
I mean, I did some belief change work with a woman in Australia, and we were Zoom, using Zoom as a platform to communicate with one another. But she had something going on physiologically, and her body was shutting down. And so, I identified some reprogramming statements that would be beneficial for her, connecting with higher self and using a pendulum. And we reprogrammed for it. And in the middle of the process, she's like, "Oh my God, I feel like I'm on fire," and I'm like, "Huh, that's good." I mean, heat is like the resistance to the flow of energy. So that means something's shifting and something's moving. And so 2 days later, she contacted me and she said, like, these symptoms had just gone. But it's like if you shift that energy and information out of the system, then it's not circulating in, through that cell structure, like I just explained, impacting the physiology anymore.
Right.
So, that healing happens because of that free flow of energy and information, and the intelligence can flow through the body and do what it needs to do to maintain balance. But as long as there's, even dysfunctional programming in the subconscious mind, if you, have some beliefs that are more fear centric and, your conscious mind wants to do something, but your subconscious mind is protective in nature. And it's like, no. So, based on that programming at the subconscious level, you get caught in this, what one of my teachers calls a desire resist pattern. So your conscious mind wants to do something, but your subconscious mind is much more powerful and it resists based on its current programming. And so that can create a noise in the system and drain the system. So identifying, certain belief structures that are in the subconscious mind also causing that kind of discord in the flow of energy and information too is beneficial.
Yes. Yeah, that's fascinating because I was just thinking, like this morning, I've been doing like a brain dump every morning. I write just 3 pages of random thoughts, and it's helped so much with my mental clutter. And even this morning, I was like asking myself, like, there's all these things I want to do, but I can't get up and do them. I can't put them into action. So it's like this push and pull, and it's so exhausting in my mind. It's like, why can't I get going? And I've tried to like get to the root cause. Like, is this from childhood? Like, what is going on? So, yeah,
And
I
it can be
feel.
inherited too. I mean, if
Oh,
you look back, I listened to one of your episodes with emotion code on it too.
oh
Yeah,
yeah,
I've integrated the emotion code in with some of the work that I do too. But it could be something inherited too. It doesn't need to
yeah,
be from this timeline. It can be something that you carried in through that information in your mother or your father's DNA.
yeah, yeah. And I come from a long line of procrastinators. I wonder
Mhm.
if that's somewhere.
But procrastination is a protective mechanism, right?
Yeah, that's right.
It's interesting, if you really get down to it. I mean, we have like these two functions. We're either seeking reward or getting a unmet need met, or we're avoiding threat, be it psychological or physical. So, that's how we move. And so you can start to look at, okay, well, what am I afraid of? What's causing me to put on the brakes before I take action? Right. So what's
Yes.
the benefit or the payoff of not moving forward? That's one of the keys too.
I like that. I have to sit down with that one. I'm writing that down.
I see that.
Yes.
That's funny.
Thank you.
Okay, I have two questions. The first one is, again, I'm sorry, I can't let this attachment thing go because I find it
It's
so
okay.
interesting and I
Are
deal
you
with it a
attached
lot.
to it?
Yeah.
Exactly. Okay, so I'm just gonna put my dad on blast, and he listens to all of our episodes. Bless him, he's so supportive. And I'm selfishly asking this. So my dad is a very open person. He's he does his own spiritual thing every day. He's really good with meditating and he's very connected in. But he is one person that gets a lot of attachments. Like he gets a lot of things that stick to him. It seems like it is insane. And like I have to check him lots, I have to Reiki him lots, and there will be little tells when he'll know. He's so aware. It's like they'll bother him when he sleeps, and I'm like, Dad, like you have to set boundaries. And then he'll get like these little like tingling, almost like energy, itchy spots, just random like annoyance places, and like nothing ever is like bad or hurtful. He's never to the point where he's, like feeling suicidal or anything. But it's like an annoyance, or he'll see a spirit that needs to get like moved over. So it's just like, is there something that he could be doing? And I tell him to put up protection. I tell him to wear a hat. I tell him, if he's going to a vulnerable place, and he does. He does his daily practice, but it still seems like he's like this moth to the flame thing. And it's like, is there something else that he should be doing?
But
Or what's
what's
going on with him?
Well, what's interesting is like in SRT, you can actually use spirits as like a self-punishment program to cause you, discord and punish yourself at an unconscious level. So, I've had that where I've done, past or other life clearings for people where, they've done some not so good things in a past life or another life in another dimension. And so they're using discarnates to help facilitate a self-punishment program. So it's interesting.
So, okay. And you know what? I have my QHHT and I've done sessions on him, but maybe we should do another and really see what's up there.
Try that and see, like, if you can take him back into, do you use muscle testing or kinesiology or dowsing at all? I thought I heard. No? Okay. So, I mean, you can use muscle testing on him to see, or muscle test yourself to see. Just have the intention to connect with your higher self or superconscious mind and ask, does, my father have a self-punishment program running that's causing this spirit attachment?
Oh, I shouldn't say that I don't do muscle testing. I guess I do. Right, Christy? Like we both kind of do. Like I can use my body as a pendulum and it'll move and tell me a yes or no and
Like
things like that.
sway? Or you use like the sway?
Yeah, actually it's like this. It'll go yes or no.
Okay.
And
Hey, that
I
looks
can,
like a dance.
I know. Or else it's like even like this, like my body will move one way.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's quite interesting. I can just
But
feel
you
the
can,
energy pulling me.
yeah, and you can use like the ring finger technique too. That's real simple and easy and quick, right? So for me, like when I'm moving through my sessions, it's like I want to optimize the time that I'm spending with somebody. And, so I try to find the quickest routes to getting the information as quickly as possible. So that's what I use. And I would just, ask, does my father have a self-punishment program with entities?
I'm going to.
Yeah.
The ring finger technique for people?
Yeah. So for me, I like to use my weakest finger pressed up against my thumb. So I use the pinky finger against the thumb. And whenever when I taught my girlfriend, I'm like, okay, put your finger together and put your index finger of your opposite hand through. And basically, it's like you're setting up a code of communication with your higher self. It's similar with a pendulum. It's a little bit more vocabulary is larger with a pendulum, but this is perfect. So you just put your index finger through your ring finger and you go, this is my yes, this is my yes, this is my yes. So don't let it break because you're training your nervous system, right? This is my yes, this is my yes, this is my yes, This is my no. This is my no. This is my no. Okay.
So the no is the breaking the fingers apart.
The no is the breaking, right? And,
Okay.
you know, there are different ways to use it to detect stress and stuff in the body, but generally, yes is positive or true, no is negative or false, right? So what I like to do after that, like I was trained in dowsing, is do what's called a positive start. So then you just start asking questions that you already know the answers to, right? I have shoes on. No. I have a elephant on my head. No. I have brunette hair. Yes. So you do that and then you start getting comfortable, like, okay, this is how my body's responding. And I already know the answer to this. And that just establishes a positive connection with this process in your brain.
Yes.
Okay. I love this. I'm sure everyone is doing this at home. That's a great. I'm going to teach my dad this too, because they'll ask me, "Can you check?" Well, he can check for himself now
Yeah.
by
And
doing
the
like
beauty
this.
of that is like literally anything you can ask a question about in the universe, you can get a yes or a no answer for. And the
Yeah.
more detailed, the more defined your question is, the higher your rate of accuracy. And, making sure you're hydrated too is always a good thing. But, my girlfriend used to hate going to the store because she's just so overwhelmed by all of the choices and what do I get? And I taught her how to muscle test. I'm like, okay, with my goal of, is it in the highest and greatest good that I get this, or yes or no, yes or no, and just boom, 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 boom. Now we're in and out. She's like, oh my God, it's like so simplified things so much that, because it can be stressful sometimes moving and navigating this world, working in this way for me is like, I know we all have intuition, but it's like, kind of like, I don't know, just a way to check things. Because sometimes you may be overwhelmed in a certain situation, or like it can kind of scatter your connection. This just helps as a way of helping you to focus and come into this present moment of now. And in doing that, like you're entering into that eternal, where all of that information is present now. And it just gives you the ability to navigate, like, okay, my car broke down, with my goal of getting my car fixed for a reasonable rate with quality work, is it the highest and greatest good that I work with this mechanic? Yes or no? Because you don't know, right?
Right.
Things on the surface, again, you're a little bit different than than the everyday person because you're sensitive and you work with energies. So I'm sure you can feel like, I don't like the vibe from this guy, or, but it's just a really wonderful way to work and move through things at times, I've found.
Yeah. And it's with you. You don't have to carry your pendulum. Like I could have
Right.
used this the other day. I spent like $8 on this new coffee creamer and it was crap. I was like, and I knew I shouldn't have bought it.
That's my point. See, now you can use this and know like if it's crap or not. Like,
Yeah.
okay, I don't want to buy that.
Yes. I just,
Is this coffee creamer going to agree with my digestion
yeah.
or not?
Exactly.
No, not that guy.
Are there any detrimental chemicals in this coffee?
Yeah. Yeah, a lot of that creamer is full of crap. Yeah, I should have
Yeah.
known better. But yeah, things like that. I really love the simplicity of that. Because yeah, I love working with my pendulum. I use it quite a bit. And my dad actually made wood pendulums for me on his wood lathe. And I still have to try them out. What do you use for material for your pendulum?
I use an Egyptian style pendulum. It's called an Osiris
Right.
pendulum, and it's used for doing distant work. Although once you tap into understanding, there is no distance into deep understanding. But I like this just because the string goes directly into the center of the pendulum. So the movement of this is super fluid. There's no wonkiness in it at all. And it just, again, like I work fairly quickly as I move through the charts in session. So, it just feels good, works good, and really helps me to move through things fairly quickly. So,
Awesome.
And I just wanted to ask just my other follow-up one. When you're removing attachments and when you're doing any kind of energy work, like I always tell people, it's really important to go in I guess, in your power. Like, don't come at anything from a fear base, kind of
Yeah.
like weakens you, or like come in confident and like, like
Right.
Gandalf with his
Yeah.
staff.
Exactly. Yeah.
Like, what would you tell people who are kind of like, oh, I don't know if I want to touch things like that, or I don't know if I feel comfortable with stuff like that. Like, do you have any advice for other practitioners starting to get into that?
Well, I think, it's like anything, if you're going to become a master of something, you're going to have to go through some challenges. Like when I first discovered I had something attached to me, I ended up calling a woman in Oregon to clear it. And when I contacted her, I didn't know this woman from Adam. Like, I just I knew that I needed help. I knew this was outside of my wheelhouse. And so I contacted her. She called me and she's like, oh, I don't think anything's there. I'm like, no, I'm pretty sure something's there. And so she started going in and working, and she's like, oh, yeah, they're hiding in your organs. And so as she was doing the release, I could feel like these little wisps of energy coming out of my body, and I felt lighter and more grounded, but it wasn't what I was expecting. And so later on that night at like 3 o'clock in the morning, like all of a sudden I like sprung out of bed. I was like super anxious. I'm like, oh my God, did this woman's payment not go through? And she's sending these things back to me. Like, what's going on? But I sat with it. I'm like, nope, that's not it. So I called another friend, and she ended up being able to take care of these entities. And so at that point, I'm like, okay, I have to learn how to do this for myself. And so I ended up going to this guy that I had met, and he had things listed on his website of people who he'd studied with. And so I ended up reading a couple of different books, and I ended up learning how to do it for myself. But it was super challenging for like, I don't know, maybe a month or two, where I was getting challenged left and right. I would clear myself, and then I would feel like this glow around my crown. I'm like, oh, that feels cool, but that doesn't feel right. And so I would go to clear it, and I couldn't clear it. And I was like, well, what's going on? And all of a sudden I got this thought from my higher self to clear my pendulum. They were using my pendulum to attach to my energy system and affect my energy system. So as soon as I cleared it, I felt that energy release off my crown and go. And another instance, I was sleeping, and like in the middle of the night. I don't know if you're familiar with the Three Stooges, Larry, Curly, and Moe. Okay. Well, this entity like ran and put its head down and rammed me in my abdomen in the dream state. And when I woke up, I'm like, oh, I don't feel like myself. And whatever had happened, this entity had lodged itself in my system. And I couldn't clear it for almost a month. I even called spiritual response therapy, which is the one system I study, and they have discarnates and stuff in there too. But no dice. The lady was like, I don't know what to do. Like, so I'm like, okay. But then after about 3 weeks, it was like this thing lingered for like 3 weeks. And then all of a sudden, my higher self gave me this image of doing a soul retrieval for myself. And so what I did is I asked to go into the totality of all that is and bring my soul fragments back, but that they be so energized that as you bring them back into my body-mind complex on all levels and layers into my physiology, that it forces whatever this is out. And that's exactly what happened. So it's like I had challenges along the way, and eventually they're like, why bother with this guy? We can't do anything to him anyway, because he can just clear us out of here. So, I mean, you'll have some challenges in the beginning. I just had a client that I taught her how to use a pendulum to identify things and clear things, keep her own system clear, because she's empathic and intuitive. And so, and she had the same challenges for, a couple of weeks until it's like, okay, we'll leave her alone now. So, you'll go through those storms, but you'll be learning, and you'll master things. Like the things that I was shown, I've not read in any material at all, And so now I've gained knowledge that I can share with other people. And if they're having a challenge, they can say, oh, well, let me try this. Maybe that will work. And then, cumulatively, that's how we keep learning and growing, and our knowledge base keeps growing. So,
Yeah.
So don't be scared.
Yeah, and you know, it's like when you walk through something yourself, like that's the best person to help walk someone else through what you went through. I always find that, like, yeah, we can read stuff in books and teach or and learn, but until we experience it ourselves and become the master, I really love that. Because yeah, I went through quite the ringer of being scared of the dark and like entities and everything like that, and I've grown stronger and more brave. But yeah, for a while there, it was pretty touch and go there.
Yeah, I'm sure. And especially, I mean, when you're receiving attunements too, right?
Yes.
You're receiving the symbols and that's purging the system. So things can be chaotic and squirrely, as that process takes place.
Yes.
And you free up your system and then you reintegrate again. And then, then it's the next attunement or whatever the process is going to be. But there's always that reconfiguration or restructuring phase that we go through. So.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a good way to put it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you about, you shared that you're creating this healing system with the pendulum dowsing and the muscle testing. So that's has to do like with the clearing of entities and attachments, but what else can you share about that?
So basically, my focus, and I've been using AI to assist with the accumulation of patterns, right? AI's learning from human beings. And so it has this access to this voluminous source of information. And so I've been setting up like a framework and then asking, okay, what are the fundamental limiting beliefs and cognitive distortions within mankind, within their consciousness? And so, I'm getting not only these different patterns. So it's like cross triangulating across many different disciplines. There's attachment theory, maladaptive schema theory. So it's these patterns again that we're learning and absorbing as we're children, and we're setting our foundation, that our foundational framework to navigate reality from birth to the age of 7. And everything is at the subconscious level and it's driving our behaviors. It's driving our thinking, our feeling, and taking us in a certain direction. And the way our nervous system's set up, we have what's called the reticular activating system at the base of the brain. And that acts as an informational filter and this guardian at the gate. And so it helps us to selectively focus on information that will reinforce our beliefs. And so if you have limiting beliefs in your subconscious mind, that's all your nervous system's going to seek out information to support that and reinforce that. So, those formative stages like attachment theory, it starts there, then maladaptive schemas, and then kind of layers on over and over and over. I think there's 108 different subconscious patterns in one part of the system. So basically it's looking for limiting beliefs and then also like the hidden benefit or the payoff of not healing the pattern, right? So we go back to we're motivated by reward or, avoiding threat, right? So at a subconscious level, we're avoiding a threat of some sort by having a certain behavior pattern, and that can really be causing us problems in life. So by identifying that and transforming that at the subconscious level within the physiology and in the energy field level, those things shift. And then all of a sudden, your system starts looking for information that supports that new life positive programming that you've put into the system at that point. So that's kind of the focus of the system. So what's what is the core, the main pattern, and then on the initial part, there's subdomains, and it can be 6 of those, and it's been surprisingly accurate. And then seeing the hidden benefit or the payoff of not healing it, and just the unconscious behavioral patterns that come with that particular pattern or program. So it's something that's relatively new. I did a little session with Charlene and she was like, oh my God, oh, that's it. I'm like, yeah, exactly. My whole point is, I don't feel that healing needs to take this enormously long period of time. I think we just need to be able to identify exactly what's the cause of the problem. So my focus has been on, okay, how do we get to the root cause like that, And so that's what this dowsing system I'm putting together is helping with. It's like, okay, what's the problem here? And so there's a core part of the system, and there's the financial component of the system. Like, okay, why are these financial blocks here? And so you've got, I think, like 96 subconscious patterns or blocks that can be present. And then I'm working on something else right now, which is a part of the system, which is really focused on social engineering. How have we been programmed in society to function, right?
Right.
And, there's a benefit or a payoff for whoever's driving the narrative in society. And so you're programmed, like I came from, Detroit, which is an automotive capital, right? It's where automobiles like emerged from. So the schooling and all the education there was geared towards like going to work in the factory. So I'm like, I didn't plan that, but like the education was tailored towards that. So that's programming. Right? So what kinds of programs have we absorbed from our media that they're shaping our lenses of perception about life and who we are, and, indoctrinating us with some sense of lack. So that drives consumerism. Like, what is there from that social engineering perspective that's impacting our behavior? So a couple of different facets, of our experience here in 3D.
That's really fascinating. And that makes so much sense with the programming, because when I would go and identify limiting beliefs in the Akashics, it could be from your family system, the way you were brought up, your mom and dad, like you have to go to college and get a degree, and it's like, no, I don't want to. And then it could be your community, and then it just keeps going out and out and out. And then with the media, that's like a whole other layer, because when you're on Instagram, the algorithms are crazy. Like I liked one thing because I wanted to show it to my husband, and then all of a sudden it was just flooded with all this stuff I liked one post. I was like, what is going on here?
Yeah, there's a man by the name of B.F. Skinner, and he worked with what's called operant conditioning. And so he created what's called a Skinner box. And so basically, we base our decisions on what we do in life on the input and the information that we get. That information, as we take it in, we actually start creating a neural net in the brain that starts storing this information and creating lenses of perception that we see things through, right? As these new neural connections are happening, we're not seeing with our eyes, we're seeing with our brain, right? Our eyes are just capturing information. Our five senses are just capturing information, but it's our brain that's putting together what we're experiencing as reality. So if I can alter that information, I can alter your lenses of perception of how you see yourself, others in the world, right? So that's basically what his experiments were, is the introduction of certain information into this space and its ability to affect the behavior of the beings in that space. And I forget the name of this computer engineer's, I forget his name, but he was talking about we're living in this kind of Skinner box right now through our social media platforms. All of the information and input, we're like in this platform, in this box. And especially once you start getting in line with certain algorithms, then it becomes like an echo chamber, right? And it starts impacting you. It can impact your sense of hope. If you're caught in this algorithm, it's this dystopian story, one after another. And oh my God, the ship's going down. And like all of a sudden that becomes your world because that's the input that you're putting into your system. Even though these things may be real and relevant and important to know about, it's also understanding the power of our consciousness to affect our reality. And to me, really, it's about us stepping back into that power and understanding that we are shaping our experience with our consciousness. So are you going to take the wheel, or are you going to take your hands off the wheel and, let somebody else steer it?
Yeah, and that first, like, having that awareness of it too is really key, because then you can get conscious about those unconscious things that are just naturally happening.
Yeah.
And you're right that people don't want to take months to be on a healing journey.
Right.
Like you said, they want their healing done like now. Like,
Yeah.
and I'm kind of one of them. Like, I don't want to.
Yeah.
It almost feels like too redundant for me to feel like I'm always trying to work on something. It feels like, well, am I even getting anywhere? You know what I
Mm.
mean?
Yeah.
So,
That
yeah.
was one of the things that kind of was a catalyst for this creation of the system. I studied Psych K, and it's very cool, but I would get clients that would come in and it's like, I don't want you to be in this revolving door. That's not the goal. The goal is to help
Yeah.
liberate you and free you from whatever patterns there so you can go and live your life. Right. But I would get in session with people sometimes, and we would just skirt around things, and we would never really get to the core issue. And again, you go back to that benefit or that payoff to not healing something. The conscious mind wants to heal something, but whatever subconscious programming is there is protective in nature, and it's it's dodging the bullet, so to speak. So you can't really get straight to the point of what it is. And so I find that, as the system comes together, it is, you're just able to go straight to the pattern. What is the benefit of not healing it? So the person becomes consciously aware of why they're unable to heal it, right? Because it's a protection mechanism at a deeper level. And, awareness is the key. It's about making the unconscious conscious so you can transform it. Because without awareness, there's no recognition. Without recognition, there's no change. So just even becoming aware of the pattern can be transformative in and of itself. Aside from, okay, is it this timeline? Is it inherited? And then clearing the energies and then reprogramming the subconscious. And then you can take that programming and, through kinesiology, see, okay, has it been taken into the subconscious? Yes. No. Okay, we got to go back in again and, reinforce that. And then once you go through the process, you know how to program your subconscious mind. And then you can do reinforcements until you, really lock that in. So it's been an interesting journey to see this emerge and to put it into use and to see the positive feedback from it, So looking forward to completing it soon. I have to find somebody to make the charts. I've used a chart generation website. It's called subtle, subtil.net. And you can go on and make your own dowsing charts, but you can't use them commercially. So I want to get this out into the world so people can utilize it and, transform themselves, because everybody has that power within them.
Yes, totally. That's incredible, because I think of, all the Reiki sessions and, helping somebody with self-love over their heart chakra, and, you fill their heart up, you clear things out, and then they walk out of there, and then their subconscious mind is just like, no, you're not worthy. And then that program keeps playing. You're going to be back here in a month. We're going to be doing the same thing. And we're going to be playing charades with your spirit guides, trying to figure out what the heck is going on. And it's like, if we can get right to that root cause and get rid of that at that right moment.
Yeah. Or just, transform it. Look at it as like, okay, there's nothing wrong with us, just the programming. That's
yes.
it.
Yeah.
And so just transforming that, and then that allows the system to remain in a state of harmony, because basically that's what you're doing, right? You are connecting with them, vitalizing their system, which is chaotic and out of harmony, and bringing it into harmony, right? But what's the root cause that's sending the system into disharmony to begin with?
Yeah.
Right. So that's the key, is like finding that, getting straight to the root cause of what it is and transforming that. But then after that, the person has to really become aware of their consciousness. I I'm sure you're familiar with Joe Dispenza. Okay. So, he talks about that thought and emotion feedback loop, right? Where I have this thought, all this, and that triggers a process in my body that creates emotional chemistry that matches that thought, which makes me think more of that thought. And I get caught in this loop, right? So, and most of that is coming from the subconscious level. So if you can shift and change that, many times you'll feel very quiet inside because you don't have that push-pull energy going on in your system. And it gives you the ability to be conscious of your thoughts and your feelings and do like this thought pattern interrupt, right? Because we have an associative memory loop in our brain that when it gets triggered, it just runs this program, right? But if we arrest that in the moment, Joe says neurons that fire together wire together, so they strengthen. But if you interrupt that loop when it gets activated, you start to weaken that connection and then it falls away. So it's becoming aware of this process, how our nervous system is working, how we're processing information, processing our reality, and that we can impact ourselves on a very deep level, but we just have to know what's there to shift it and change it. And it's this ever expanding state of awareness, a growing state of awareness of these processes. And once you understand them, then you can take the wheel fully and start driving it.
Yeah.
I mean, that's kind of like where I got started was with Reiki, and even though I didn't get into the master levels, I mean, that helped initially very much so, but, like it was expressed here tonight, like, okay, so I bring your system back into harmony and energize everything. And then eventually things unfold and take the system out of harmony again.
Yeah. Christy, did you have any more questions you wanted to ask? This was such a great combo.
Yes, so good. I do have one selfish question. Do you have time?
Sure.
For this? Okay. So you work in the Akashic Records. So when I work in the Akashic Records, I get exhausted. And my teacher has always told me the more you're in there, the easier it's going to get. And I feel like it just like depletes my mind, body, soul. Like, when you study really hard and your mind is so tired and your body, but it's like that times 10. And it's like, is it because I'm like trying to leave my body to go to the Akashics, or am I trying too hard to get information? Because sometimes I'm just like really trying to get that past life, like just really pulling it out, and it's just exhausting. So it's like,
is this for yourself or for clients?
Clients.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah. I'm not quite familiar. I mean, I've heard of QHHT. I'm familiar with Dolores, but don't really understand the mechanics. I mean, I ended up doing this session in Florida with this woman who did a big group. And, started going down this corridor and, but there was something going on in the space. It kept distracting me. So I could never really get into that state and go back to a past life. So I'm not sure of like what it is, you induce this hypnotic state with the person, regress them, go back. Like, how are you using your energy system in that process?
So I'm doing like it's not live, and I'm just dowsing for things.
Okay.
So I get all my answers, and then I go back and try and get the story. So I try to see it like a movie because I'm clairvoyant, but it's just like so exhausting.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm not sure. I mean, for me, when I'm working, I'm just letting my higher self do the work, and I think if you can do that and set it up with your higher self just to download that information, so you don't have to push yourself out and into things, right? I think that's where that depletion of energy is coming from. For me, it's like this super simple process. People ask me, "Oh, do you get tired?" No, I don't get tired because I'm not doing the work. I mean, I'm doing the work, but I'm not doing it. The superconscious mind is doing all the heavy lifting, So I would set something up like that with like your superconscious, like, so you don't get depleted, and just try that out. Like, are you like remote viewing or projecting your consciousness into these spaces, these Akashic records, or how are you, you know what I mean? Like, how are you using the energy in that way? Or are you just passive, intending and letting the information come?
Oh, that's a really good question. I almost feel like it's like a remote view.
Mm-hmm.
It's like I detach myself and go somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's like sometimes I feel like not all parts of me come back.
Mm. Oh, so do you know how to do a soul retrieval?
Yeah, I've just I just called pieces of myself back home,
Back and
but
ground. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. So I don't try exploring working in that way where
yeah,
you don't try to project yourself into these records, but just have that flow of information come from your higher self just to save your energy.
yeah.
Just make it easier for you to work in that way.
I really love that. That makes so much sense. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, higher self can do all the work. They don't have
That's
this
right.
human body.
Exactly.
Time to
Don't
do
burn
dishes.
yourself out.
Yeah, it's exactly what happened. It was intense, and I actually got sick. Like I got a cold, and like my body was like, "You need to rest," and it was a whole thing. But yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
If you're relocating your energy out of your body, detaching from your body, like that vital force is going out, right?
Yeah. Yes, and that's
have
not
that.
good.
And that makes me think too, like when I'm doing Reiki, like I'm never tired or exhausted in the process, right? Because we're
Right.
drawing the energy in.
Right.
We're not pushing our energy out anywhere.
Right.
Yes.
Right. So it's interesting with that Akashic feeling, Christy, that you get because you're like, I'm exhausted.
Yeah.
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 Yeah, that
So
makes
just
so
try
much sense.
letting it flow to you. That's what I would.
Yeah, I love that.
And you'll
Yeah.
have to
I
let me
bet
know
there's
how
a
that
lot of
works.
other people
Yeah.
who will relate to that too.
Yeah.
So that's
I
a really
think
good
so.
question you asked.
Okay, good. Yeah, it's not someone else will resonate with it. Because I was like, I have to ask this question, but
Yeah,
yeah.
I'm glad you did.
Yeah.
It's even good
Thank
for me
you.
to know too. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's a beauty. That's the beauty of these conversations. We just discover new things and share with one another what we've experienced on our journeys and just try to help one another,
Yeah.
Right?
That's exactly right.
And a lot of people don't have in-person communities or other people they can ask questions like this to, like, hey, does this happen to you? And they're like, what?
What are you talking about?
Yeah.
Didn't you see the football game?
Yeah, right.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Well, even just like you said, when you were like first like going through and it's like, where have you been? It's just like, you don't even want to know where I've
Don't
been.
even want to go there. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, this was fantastic. Thank you so much. I feel like I could talk to you for another hour.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, when your program releases, we'll definitely have you back on.
Oh, for
And
sure.
we can talk all about that even more. Yeah, I would really love that. So where can people find you?
If they go to purelightwell.com, PURELIGHTWELL.com, that's where you can find me.
Okay, awesome. And you're on Instagram as well, so we can link that too. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for having me on today. I mean, I haven't been on a podcast in like 20 years. So thanks for this experience and letting me share.
Yeah, no, thank you. You're so well spoken, and I really love how you marry the science and the spirituality together, and it's like digestible. Like you take something like Joe Dispenza and you can just explain it where I'm like, my mind understands it. So thank you for that. I really, really enjoyed that.
My pleasure.
Yeah.
My pleasure.
Okay, so now to end our episode, Christy is going to do a card pull for our listeners for May.
All right, guys. So yes, as I said, May, of course, is my favorite month. And yeah, I pulled a few cards here. I'm using the Rose Oracle by Rebecca Campbell. I've been really drawn to the rose lately, so I really thought this would be a good deck to use. So first card is the Sun. So joy and enjoyment, life force, success, vitality, and play. So this really is like into the solar plexus. And I feel like, when spring comes, like where we are in the Northern Hemisphere, we're really lighting up that solar plexus. Life is coming back to earth around us and also within us. So it's a really good time to focus on our inner power, our vitality, what lights us up, what doesn't. Let go of something that doesn't light you up. And letting go is, such a beautiful lesson to learn through and to grow through, and really to honor yourself and where you're at. And I had somebody tell me recently a really beautiful practice that she uses in her sessions. When somebody feels very stuck in a situation, whether it's a relationship, a job, where they live, she asks them, if you could not upset anyone or anything, or like remove yourself completely from that, what decision would you make? What would you free yourself from? So if you're thinking of leaving a friendship, if you're moving, if you're changing jobs, but you're too scared to take that leap to upset the other person on the other side, if you remove that from the equation and set yourself free, what would you do in that moment? And I just really love that guidance, because that's such a good, question to ask yourself if you're feeling that stuckness, and something, even writing that down in a journal and seeing what comes through. And the vitality also, like the life force within you, when you are making decisions, just ask yourself a simple question with your hands on your solar plexus. Is this going to deplete my life force, or is this going to light my life force up? Simple as that. When I even eat food and I'm like craving a bag of chips, I ask myself, Christy, is this going to deplete your life force? Of course it is. So why would I do it? But I'm not saying like don't indulge in those moments, but it's just something to be in tune with your body, that I really love that simple guidance of asking yourself, is this gonna, feed my life force or deplete it? And the next card here is the Wild Rose. So do it your way, embrace your uniqueness and untamed. So it's just, I've been reading a lot about Reiki and, moving through the traditional Reiki and moving into my own practice, right? So it's like, we talked about this before, where we have the bases and the tradition, and we're honoring that, but we're also moving into our own way of doing sessions and healing and guiding. And I just feel like that is just a beautiful path to take. What do you want to bring to this session? Do it your way. Release the dogma of any type of healing that you've heard. What makes it unique to you? Tune into that. And then the last card here is the Rose Garden. So is innocence, forgiveness, and be gentle with yourself. So this is also like being in your, what are they saying? Like be in your stillness and be within yourself, and then ask yourself those hard questions, because when we can go and visit that shadow self, that inner beast, sometimes that is where those questions lie. But it's like we also need to forgive ourselves for the things that maybe we've done in the past, and just knowing that, hey, we did the best we could with the information that we had in that moment. That's something that I've been working through, and just going through some relationships in my past. And, I wasn't my best self like 10 years ago, but I'm just forgiving myself for who I was in that moment. And I'm forgiving whoever was involved in that situation. So yeah, I just feel like right now with spring and with gardens and things blooming, I feel like, going into your own garden, planting your own seeds, and leaning into what flowers do I want to plant? What do I need to tend to my garden? Do I need to weed it? Do I need to fertilize it? What do I need to do right now? So I just feel like sitting with yourself and just having that insight, and just really tuning into what do I need, and whether that's 5 minutes while your coffee's brewing, just tuning into yourself, or whether that's before you go to bed at night, or when you wake up in the morning, or having a shower. Sometimes the best guidance that comes through is when I'm doing something mundane, like vacuuming. I also had some crazy guidance come through when I was at the car wash, because it's so loud in there. and I'm just with myself, with the water, and like that's all I'm focused on. And I just got these floods of downloads. So it's just when we can quiet our mind, we can get into that garden and we can hear our own guidance from our higher self and from our soul. So yeah, I feel like that's where I will end. Yeah.
Such good message. I really took away that first one actually about that if you could do anything and nobody and you didn't didn't matter how anyone felt about it, right? Just focusing on yourself. That is like the perfect way to analyze a situation or analyze anything you want. And I actually was taught that when I was manifesting too. If you could have anything and it wouldn't upset anyone, what would you do?
Yeah. There's so much freedom in that. Like there's just, when you remove other people, when you really care about what they think and say, it's just, there's so much magic there.
I agree. And the messages are perfect for this time of year too, as well, I find.
Yeah, I felt like it really pulled into springtime and the garden and all of that jazz. So.
Yeah, I like the deck you used.
Yeah. I haven't used this deck in a while and I just love it. And the imagery on here is just so beautiful. But yeah, anyways, okay. So I think that's it for now. You can find us at Living the Reiki Life on Instagram, and we have our personal channels or handles as well. I'm at the Birch Soul.
And I am Reiki with Manda.
Yeah. All right. So thanks, guys, for joining us, and we will see you in June.
Yes.
1, 2,